Rivera,
Here.
Ms. Cabral,
Present.
Mrs. Cordero,
Present.
Mr. Valencia,
Present.
and Mr. Hollinshead is absent this evening.
Item A, report from closed session items. Dr. McDuffie, do we have a report out from closed session?
Yes, we do. The Board of Education accepted the administrative appointment of Andrew McLaughlin, Area Administrator. The roll call vote was unanimous. That's all I have.
Thank you, Dr. McDuffie. For closed session item B, conference with labor negotiators, CSEA, information was received. And for closed session item C, conference with labor negotiators, SMEA, information was also received. Moving on to item B, introduction of interpreters. Tonight's interpreters are Cesar Ruiz, Benito Flores, and Manuel Rios Victoria. Greeting and support this evening is provided by Aide Hernandez. Just a reminder to all speakers and presenters, please be mindful when speaking at the podium, not to speak too quickly so that our interpreters are able to increase accuracy and keep pace for our Spanish and Mixtec speaking audience. Item C, Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Lara, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Everybody stand. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Lara. Item A, public comment period, open session. The public comments are intended for members of the public to address the Board of Education on items involving the school district. Such testimony shall be limited to 3 minutes each per person and subject, and 15 minutes total for each topic. If an answer to a specific question is requested, the board president will, if appropriate, direct administration to respond in writing. Do we have any public comments this evening, Dr. McDuffie?
Yes, we do. We have public comments, non-agenda items. And we have two recorded public comments. And the first one is Kayla Ailman.
Good evening, Board, Dr. McDuffie, and those in attendance. I am Kayla Ailman, the physical education teacher at Battles that teaches upper grade and kindergarten. I am a committee member for a conference workshop and a national board certification candidate. And tonight I would like to follow up regarding physical education in our district and at my site. I have continued to provide opportunities for students to develop physical literacy through co-teaching dance with kindergarten, through throwing and catching and fitness stations with upper grades, and utilizing student agendas to track progress on student-created goals. So we have made our time work for us. The limited 30 minutes is impacted by my site environment and site admin scheduling choices. I teach 24 to 38 students in 30 minutes, 4 days a week. That equates to 3 to 8 minutes of a warm-up and organizing the class in between transitions. It means 2 to 3 minutes per station with 3 to 4 rotations per class, meaning I need 2 to 3 days to assess all my students. It equates to me being able to assess 4 to 10 students at a time in that 30 minutes. However, that does not allow me much time for student behavior interventions, which can take 3 to 10 minutes. The time is impacted by recess, whom often disorganizes my outdoor setup, thus impacting my classroom time management. Our site admin choice to split groups into thirds, not halves, has been impacting my class size. It increases the amount of students per session, which impacts student-teacher relationships given the time restraint. I also go immediately with no transition time from teaching 5th grade to teaching kindergarten across our campus, which at Battles is a 2-minute hike. I encourage the board to emphasize to administrators how their choices in scheduling will impact students' time on task or their time on learning, how their schedule choices impact students' relationships with teachers, and how scheduling impacts the flow of transition time on their site. Thank you for listening. Have a good evening.
Next, we have Judy Frost.
Hi, my name is Judy Frost, JUDYFROST, and I am commenting on censorship, such as banning books in schools, which is simply an attempt to rewrite history by censoring the teaching of factually accurate events. Parents are free to control what their own children read, but they do not have a right to restrict what books are available for teaching. In California, per Ed Code, the State Board of Education decides on the teaching standards for all students, not the local school boards. I would urge the Santa Maria Bonita School District Board to uphold these standards. Thank you for your time and attention.
Next, we have LaWanda Lyons Pruitt.
Good evening, Dr. McDuffie, Mr. Valencia, and members of the board, as well as our community. LaWanda Lyons Pruitt, President of the nation's largest and oldest civil rights organization, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. You know us as the NAACP. Our mission is to achieve equity, political rights, and social inclusion by advancing policies and practices that expand human and civil rights, eliminate discrimination, and accelerate the well-being, education, and economic security of Black people and all persons of color. We're here tonight because we got the memo. And our response is not here, not in our front yard, and not in our backyard. For the demographics in the community of Santa Maria is well over 77% of persons of color. Attempts to infiltrate our local board on the pretext that someone believe in the Constitution. What? People of color don't believe in the Constitution? We just put our hands over our heart and we pledged allegiance to our country. Thank God for our legislators and AB 1078, which was signed by Governor Newsom. They are on the right side of history and it took effect immediately. School districts are now obligated under California law to create equitable learning environments where all peoples, LGBTQ+, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, where they feel welcome, including have an honest discussion on racism, the history of slavery in our society, and in California. Then NAACP is committed to preserving, defending, and protecting the factually accurate history of all people and all persons of color. We will continue to support local, state, and national efforts to fight back against book ban. I repeat, not here, not now, not ever. It will never happen. Thank you.
Mary Jaka.
Good evening. My name is Mary Jaka, and I'm happy to be here, and especially to be right after LaWanda, because she's so, put it there, she put it out there. But I'm here representing tonight the League of United Latin American Citizens. And we also are against, the censorship that is being recommended when I heard about the book banning, you know what I thought about? Something way back in history that happened in Germany, the book burning in May 10th, 1933. Nazi students went to 34 universities and started burning books. And we all know what happened, what their objectivity was. And we're here. We've been here. We've been here a long, long time, many generations. You can't ignore us. We have history, and we're going to be sharing it with the generations to come, because we have the freedom. We live in a free society, and we also can decide for our kids. You know, I'm so happy that my kids and grandkids grew up without prejudice, and that they are accepting of society. You know, to them, the LGBTQ community, they're the same as all of us, and we love them and we appreciate them. And we are not, as LaWanda said, we're here, we're not going away. Thank you.
Thank you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be calling 4 names at a time and continue to call so that we can have a line going for public comment. Okay. So we have Ava Talley, and then Lata Murty. Is Lata Murty here? Okay. And then we have Jules Bianco and Cliff Solomon. If you can all just can't kind of stand and.
I'll wait for them to line up. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Ava Talley. I use they, them, and he, him pronouns, and I am here on behalf of Allen Hancock College's Pride Alliance Club, which I am the secretary of. I am here to question why some parents may feel threatened by books that address history, different family dynamics, sexuality, gender, race, and more. Parents, I urge you to ponder on why certain content threatens your children's education or well-being. Do you have religious or personal beliefs that feel threatened by content including LGBTQ plus people of color, or history you think kids don't need to know yet? 21% of banned content is in the US is about my community, the LGBTQS plus community, just for being protagonists or prominent secondary characters in books. Homosexuality and transness is not something we need to censor from children, and it should not be labeled as indoctrination. Children's books that depict same-sex pairings or anything else should be seen as their counterpart heterosexual pairings. Just for having a mom and a mom be in a book is kind of a weird reason to ban one. As well as 40% of banned content in the US is for people of color as protagonists or prominent secondary colors, which is shocking. And 20% is censoring the history of racism. The history of the people in this country and every other country will not be silenced. And 22% of banned content is sexual content, which includes sexual assault, teen pregnancy, abortion, puberty, and relationships, which your kids will be going through puberty while they're at the school. Sorry. And the list goes on. When you ban these types of materials.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to, I was asking to slow down. That's because they're interpreting back there. My apologies. I didn't want you to think that was any other kind.
I didn't want to run out of 3 minutes.
Yeah, sorry. My apologies.
Okay.
Just
is there anything I need to restart, or should I just
start where you started making that list?
Statistics. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So we're going to go back to the beginning. Okay, 41 of banned content in the US is about my community, the LGBTQS plus community, which for just being prominent or secondary characters. Homosexuality and transness is not something we need to censor from children, and it should not be labeled as indoctrination of children just for having a mom and a mom pairing in a book in the background. Children books that depict same-sex pairings or anything else should be seen the same as their heterosexual pairing counterparts. 40% of banned content in the US is about people of color as protagonists or secondary characters, which is shocking for me. I didn't know that was where we were in this life. 40% is censoring the history of racism. The history of our people and the people in the world should not be censored. 22% of banned content is sexual content, which includes sexual assault, teen pregnancy, abortion, puberty, and relationships, which puberty will be happening when your children are under Santa Maria Bonita School District, likely. And the list goes on. When you ban these types of materials, you silence your own children and everyone else's kids. I am here as an advocate for your students who may come to Allen Hancock one day, and we'll be there for them, and an activist for age-appropriate and inclusive education for all. Here are 3 banned books I think every elementary age kid should read. I Am Jazz by Jazz Jeggings, which is about a transgender woman and her childhood. We March by Shane W. Evans, which is about Martin Luther King. These are all books that have bans on them, by the way. And Separate is Never Equal by Dukin Tonatio, which is about Brown versus the Board of Education, about segregation, because that's too hard for kids to know. And I hope the school board stands up for what's right for your students, and I hope your parents as well does that, because your students deserve access to education like I had access to it. Thank you.
Good evening, Santa Maria Bonita School District Board members. My name is Lada Murti, and I am addressing you tonight as a college professor, a mother, a member of NAACP, whom you just heard from, National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, Santa Maria Lompoc, and also Women's March Santa Maria Valley. But most of all, I am addressing you tonight as a South Asian American woman and writer. I have been writing for as long as I can remember, but it wasn't until I was more than 10 years old that I realized that all of the characters in my writing were white. I didn't realize it myself. My father had to point it out to me. He had to ask me why all the characters in my writing were white before I could even see it. I was so separated from my identity as an Indian American Hindu girl that I could not even see how I was erasing myself in my own writing. And who could blame me when nearly all of the main characters in everything I had read up to that point had been white? You see, that's what happens when you restrict what children can read, and when you don't expose kids to a diversity of characters and stories. Children with minoritized identities are erased. Even worse, children with minoritized identities learn to erase themselves from their own stories. In my case, it wasn't until my junior year of high school in rural Kansas, when I was 17 years old, nearly an adult, that I began reading literature by women of color, and in which women of color were main characters. That's because for the first time ever, my English teacher was a woman of color. She inspired me to seek out more books about women of color, and I found a collection of writing by women of the South Asian diaspora, a book I still treasure to this day, but a book that would surely be banned if some knew about it today. That book showed me for the first time that my identity and my experiences are worth writing about too, that I did not have to erase myself from my own writing. Now, I fear what will happen to other children like me who are told they are not allowed to read about their own identities and histories in school, that reading about themselves is somehow bad. How will these children learn to erase themselves because of banned books? I shudder to think of the answer to that question. Thank you.
And as our speaker comes up, Valbina Ramirez will be next, Olga Bravo, and Elvia Salazar.
Also want to quickly mention, I appreciate folks ending right on time, right? Because otherwise I have to kind of say, hey, please wrap up your comments. So I'm really appreciative of that.
So hello, school board members and staff. My name is Jules Bianco, and I am here on behalf of Planned Parenthood Central Coast Action Fund. Education is critical to the mission of Planned Parenthood, and we are proud of our bilingual community health educators that provide medically accurate, inclusive sex education and information to adults, teens, and families throughout Santa Barbara, Ventura, and San Luis Obispo counties to help them make healthy decisions that are necessary to building a strong future. We stand today in solidarity with Santa Maria community members to express opposition to book bans in the Santa Maria Bonita School District.
Slow down just a little bit.
Book banning is not only a form of censorship and an infringement on the First Amendment right to free speech, but it is also a way to limit access to diverse ideas and perspectives. We stand for age-appropriate and inclusive education, which is essential to ensure the success of all students, including LGBTQ+ students and Black, Indigenous, and other students of color. It is critical for young people of all backgrounds to feel safe, supported, and affirmed. We are seeing a nationwide book banning movement that disproportionately targets content about BIPOC and LGBTQ+ communities, and that deliberately spreads misinformation about the titles offered in school libraries. Library staff and our professional educators work hard to curate age-appropriate material that inspires learning and reading comprehension skills. The families that make up our schools deserve a broad and diverse library that reflects the diversity of our community. Book bans are a dangerous distraction to the urgent issues that face our schools. We stand in community and urge the board to reject book bans and live up to the district's core values that all students should be given the best education possible and the belief in dignity and respect for all. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Cliff Solomon, and I hold a PhD in education. I am speaking tonight to urge the school board to ward off any attempts to ban books from the school's curriculum. I have personal experience with this topic. Back in the 1970s, I taught American literature in a small rural Czech community in Nebraska. My curriculum included a unit of African American literature. The books included Native Son by Richard Wright, A Raisin in the Sun, a play by Lorraine Hansberry, and my favorite, The Learning Tree, a novel by Gordon Parks. I liked this book because its author grew up in Kansas and wrote about his own experiences being an African American in the Midwest. I felt that including these literary works in my curriculum was crucial to opening up to my students a world outside of their own. For the most part, I received nothing but praise for my efforts. Unfortunately, a newspaper writer took exception to my teaching The Learning Tree, and tried to get it banned. Luckily, my school board and my superintendent backed me up, saying, "We hired you because we believe in you and your choices. I urge you to do the same." As the National Coalition Against Censorship wrote, even books or materials that many find objectionable may have educational value, and the decision about what to use in the classroom and the libraries should be based on professional judgments and standards, not individual preferences. We live in a globally interconnected world. Don't support censorship.
Hola, mi nombre es Olga. Soy un padre de familia en Unidas, en grupo de padres con futuros líderes de América. Estoy aquí para oponerme a la prohibición de cualquier libro que pueda servir como recurso y aprendizaje a los jóvenes. Los libros que se está hablando aquí hoy tratan temas como las comunidades de color, cuestiones de raza y racismo, y la inclusión, retirar libros de las aulas limita la posibilidad de debatir cuestiones complejas. La razón por la que no apoyo la prohibición de libros es porque nuestros jóvenes tienen derecho a la libertad intelectual y prohibir estos libros limitará la identidad dentro y fuera del aula. Sacar estos libros de las aulas limitan la posibilidad de debatir temas complejos como el racismo, las agresiones y sexuales o acoso, que hablan sobre cuestiones complejas con las que los adolescentes probablemente se encontrarán en su vida. Por último, quiero reafirmar que los jóvenes merecen el derecho a acceder a libros que representen comunidades diversas y hablen de temas difíciles, desafiantes, que promuevan el pensamiento y la expresión intelectual. Solo mediante la exposición a estos temas complejos podrán nuestros jóvenes convertirse en adultos sociales, emocionales y sanos. Muchas gracias.
Hi, my name is Olga. I am a mother, a part of the United Families, and I am part of the groups of the Future Leaders of America. I am here to go against the censorship of any book that is part of the teaching curriculum for our young ones. The books that I am talking about here today are the ones that talk about communities of color, racism topics, and inclusion. To take away these books in the classrooms limits the possibility of difficult questions. The reason I don't support censorship is because our young ones have the right of liberty, and to censor these books will limit the identity both in and outside of the classroom. Outside of these, if these books cannot be held within the classroom, it limits their possibility to be able to have debates on difficult topics. Racism, sexual aggressions, bullying, things that have to do with complex topics with teenagers and maybe the ones that they will be finding in their life. Lastly, I want to reassure that the young ones have the right to have these books and promote and represent our diverse community with difficult topics and promote their own thought and expression. Only through this exposition and these complex topics can our young ones convert into social adults and into healthy emotional and social adults. Thank you for your time.
Juan Fonseca, please come and line up. Maria Avila and Norma Alonso.
Buenas tardes, mesa directiva de Santa María Bonita School. Mi nombre es Elvia Salazar. Soy un padre de familia que lidera el Grupo de Familias Unidas, que es un grupo de padres en futuros líderes de América. De igual manera, estoy aquí para oponerme a que se prohíba cualquier libro que limite a nuestra juventud a salir adelante, a poder aprender de nuestras culturas, de nuestra identidad. Sacar un libro de una biblioteca o de una escuela les va a prohibir que nutran su mente. Y el día de hoy estoy en apoyo para toda mi comunidad en que se prohíba esta acción. Y la razón es ¿por qué? Muchas bibliotecas escolares ya disponen de un mecanismo para impedir que los alumnos saquen libros que sus padres no aprueben. Los materiales de lectura disponibles en la biblioteca están a disposición de los alumnos para su selección personal. No son libros obligatorios. Prohibir estos materiales eliminará el acceso de todos los miembros de la comunidad. Quiero agregar que los jóvenes merecen el derecho a acceder a libros que representen a sus comunidades, a su identidad, de dónde pertenecen, cuáles son nuestras raíces, el por qué estamos el día de hoy aquí presentes levantando la voz, haciendo esta petición para nuestra comunidad. Muchas gracias por su atención.
Hi, my name is Elvia Salazar, and I am a mother within the United Families group of parents who are the future leaders of America. I am here to go against censorship of any book that will serve as a curriculum for our students. The books that I am talking about today are the topics that are the communities of color, racism, and inclusion. To take away these books from classrooms limits the possibility to complex questions. I am here today, and the reason I am here today is because I don't support prohibition of these books, because many libraries already have mechanisms to impede our students to take out books and to have books that parents already don't approve of. The materials and the text that is available in the libraries is available to our students by personal selection, not by obligation. To censor these materials will take away the access of all the members of our community. Lastly, I want to reaffirm our students that they deserve the right to have these books and represent their diverse community, to talk about difficult topics and to promote the thought and intellectual expression. Only through this exposition are these complex topics for our young ones can turn them into healthy social and emotional adults. And I would like to add one more thing. What are our roots? Why are we here? For our community. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, members of the board and members of the community. Mi nombre es Juan Fonseca y yo represento a las Familias Unidas y a los Padres Futuros Líderes de América, así como soy representante también de el comité de ILAC de Santa María John Unified High School District. Y la razón por la que no apoyo la prohibición de libros es porque prohibir libros sobre personas LGBTQ y libros sobre diversidad es discriminatorio y perjudicial para los alumnos que ya pueden sentir que son minoría y que sus experiencias rara vez están representadas en la literatura. I disagree about the books banning and changing the current status quo of our diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. To me, this is another form of discrimination. Our kids are eager to learn more about their ancestors and history backgrounds. You might take away our books from the shelves, but you're never going to take away our identity, diversity, culture, and rich history and family values. Please don't support book censorships. Thank you.
Buenas tardes, mesa directiva. Hola, mi nombre es María Ávila y soy un padre con Familias Unidas, un grupo de padres con futuros líderes de América. Estoy aquí para oponerme a la provisión de cualquier libro que pueda servir como recurso de aprendizaje para los jóvenes. Los libros de los cuales se está hablando aquí hoy trata de temas como las comunidades de color, cuestiones de raza y racismo, la inclusión. Retirar estos libros de las aulas limita la posibilidad de debatir complejos. La razón por la cual no apoyo la provisión de los libros es porque todos los estudiantes tienen el derecho, en virtud de la primera enmienda, a leer y conocer la historia y los puntos de vista de todas las comunidades, incluida su propia identidad, dentro y fuera del aula. Otra razón es porque los libros son un portal a diferentes experiencias vitales y la lectura fomenta empatía y el desarrollo socioemocional de nuestros hijos. Por último, quiero reafirmar que los jóvenes merecen el derecho a acceder a libros que representan a comunidades diversas y hablen de temas difíciles y desafiantes que promueven el pensamiento y la expresión intelectual. Solo mediante la exposición a estos temas complejos podrán nuestros jóvenes convertirse en adultos sociales y emocionalmente sanos. Muchas gracias por su tiempo.
Good afternoon, board. My name is Maria, and I am a mother of the United Families. I'm part of the group of Future Leaders of America. I am here to go against the censorship in any book that is used in the curriculum for our young ones. The books that are in question are the ones from today and topics that have to do with the color of our community, racism, and inclusion. To take away these books from the classrooms will limit the possibility of complex questions. The reason I do not support the censorship of these books is because our students have the right and virtue of the First Amendment. I read and to know the history and the highlights of their communities, including their own identity, both in and outside of the classroom. The books are a portal to different experiences, and the reading material is part of the process that gives them empathy and social development. Lastly, I want to affirm the students that they deserve the right to receive these books that represent our diverse community, to talk about complex topics, and to promote the thought and expression of intellectuality. Only through this exposition are these complex topics can these young ones convert themselves into social and emotional healthy adults. Thank you for your time.
Can we have line up Corema Morales, Julie M., and Val King?
Ok, buenas tardes a todos. Hola, mi nombre es Norma y soy un padre de familia unidos, un grupo de padres con futuros líderes de América. Estoy aquí para oponerme a la provisión de cualquier libro que pueda servir como recurso de aprendizaje para los jóvenes. Los libros de los que se está hablando aquí hoy se trata temas como las comunidades de color, cuestiones de raza y racismo. La inclusión, retirar esos libros de las aulas limita la posibilidad de debatir cuestiones complejas. La razón por la que no apoyo la provisión de libros es porque los padres tienen derecho a orientar la lectura de sus hijos y de otros padres. En concreto, un pequeño grupo de padres no debería dictar qué libros pueden leer los hijos de otras personas. Nuestros jóvenes tienen derecho a la libertad intelectual y prohibir estos libros limitará su crecimiento intelectual. Por último, quiero reafirmar que los jóvenes merecen el derecho a ceder libros que representen comunidades diversas y hablen de temas difíciles y desafiantes, que promueve el pensamiento y la expresión intelectual. Solo mediante la exposición a estos temas complejos podrán nuestros jóvenes convertirse en adultos sociales y emocionalmente sanos. Gracias por su tiempo.
Hi, my name is Norma. I am a mother within the United Families, a group of parents of future leaders of America. I'm here to go against the censorship of any book that serves as curriculum for our young ones. These books include those who talk about topics about the color of our community, racism, and inclusion. To censor these books limits the possibility for complex questions. The reason that I do not support the censorship of books is because as parents, we have the right to guide the reading of our children. A small group of parents should not dictate for many. And what books as a child's, sorry, let me reread that. One small group of parents should not dictate what books our children can read. Our young ones have the right of intellectual freedom, and to censor these books limits their intellectual growth. Lastly, I want to reaffirm our young ones have the right to have these books that represent our diverse community, complex difficulties, and to promote the thought and intellectual expression. Only through this exposition are complex topics be able to help our young ones to convert themselves into healthy, social, emotional adults. Thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Coraima Morales, and I am the senior organizer with Future Leaders of America. I am here to oppose banning any books that can serve as a learning resource for youth. The books that are being talked about here today will deal with topics such as communities of color, issues of race and racism, and inclusion. Pulling these books from the classroom limits the possibility of discussing complex issues. The reason I don't support the banning of any books is because, according to the American Library Association, a majority of voters, 71% on both sides, oppose banning books. Large majorities of voters, 71%, oppose efforts to have books removed from their local public libraries, including a majority of Democrats, 75%, Independents, 58%, and Republicans, 70%. The American Library Association also states banning books can be costly. Libraries have been sued for removing books or restricting access to them on the grounds that is illegal for public facilities to favor one political viewpoint over another. Lastly, I want to reaffirm that youth deserve the right to access any books that represents marginalized communities and speaks to difficult and challenges topics that will develop intellectual thinking and expression. Only through exposure to those complex topics and conversations with our youth be able to become socially and emotionally healthy adults. Thank you for your time.
Hello, good evening. I'm Julie Martinez. I'm a woman, a mother, a woman of color. I'm assuming that's the new title here. There's a lot of labels that I've heard tonight and a lot of things that for me don't scream unity. Where's the melting pot of I'm an American and I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister. All these things that I heard tonight sounds a lot of diversity and all these things. To me, sounds like you're wanting to exclude and hire and segregate our community. I'm a local woman, born and raised, 5 generations here in the Valley. And none of this I heard spoke of my community that I grew up. I grew up reading Nancy Drew, the Boxcar Kids, even the Goosebumps. None of these had to have specifics of a Hispanic woman or Latina or Latinx, all these extras. It was something I read and I enjoyed that helped me imagine different things outside of the Valley here. We grew up in the fields. We grew up with my parents picking. I worked in the freezers as one of my first jobs. Yet none of these people here speak a community of that we all pull together. We didn't ask what's your background, what origin, where's your family? Sorry. It's really, for me, not being first generation, but being 5 generations here in this community alone, it's just disheartening when I hear other groups speak about children wanting to know their sexuality. That's my place as a mother. The California Educational School Board laws say that you guys are to teach grammar, writing, math, basic geography. I'm the mom. My husband's the father. We are to teach our children their morals. We are to have these deep
seated conversations on who you are and diversities of things that are going on in the community, whether it's violence and bullying and all this. That's my place to help my children to navigate these streets and the community around. And I pray that all of you here as a community members that want to encourage and strengthen our youth, that you actually think about what you're asking. When you want to tell a 12-year-old it's okay to go get an abortion and we don't have to tell your parents, that's illegal. When you're asking a family to be excluded from any child going because they're having confusing thoughts because maybe somebody's bullying them, that's wrong. Me as a mother, if you stood up and, is my time over? You guys distracted me. I thought, okay, can I have a few seconds back, please? But so anyways, for you guys to say these things, it's my parental consent to give to any minor under 18, that's a minor, any sexual anything. So any conversation, I've raised my children to say, if there's an adult coming to you and within reaching distance and I'm not around or dad's not around, then they're a stranger danger. You get away as fast as you can. If any adult comes to you wanting to have secret conversations that don't include me or dad, that's stranger danger. Get away. Yet this is what I'm hearing. These books and things are wanting to make those things possible to get to not only my children, my nieces and nephews, my sister's kids, my neighbor's kids. That's my community. That's where I grew up from. And we don't want that. Secrets, everything done in the dark comes to light, and that's not okay. And then there's
That's
always
time.
damage.
Please wrap up your comment.
Okay. And so when I hear all these, I didn't need someone to stand up and say, oh, this book is written for women of color, of Hispanic origins. I didn't need that as a child to know that I'm somebody important, that I have a beautiful mind and I have a potential far greater than what I even then at 8, 9, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20 knew possibilities for me to succeed.
Thank you.
I'm
Very much. And
grateful
that's
for
time.
that. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
What's wrong?
Hi, my name is Val King, and I'm here to call for the censorship of any sexually explicit books and any new, what would I call it, racial books. I know I look like a white man up here, and I am. I'm married to a black woman. My kids are half black, half white, and I don't think my kid needs to think that they're any less of themselves. They can do anything they want in this world. They live in the greatest country in the world, the greatest, and they have the best opportunities to get a great education. I see too many of these school boards and schools trying to worry about race and teaching kids about sex and what sex they want to be when our reading levels are horrible. Our math levels are horrible. Let's worry about that. Let's worry about teaching our kids to read. Let's educate them. And let's teach them to love one another. But I don't teach my kids, you're half black, you're at a half of a disadvantage, and you're white, you're more advantaged. That's not what I teach them. I teach them that, do the right thing and that you can be anything. We live in America, you can be anything. And, I had a son and they read The Kite Runner. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. It's a sexually explicit book. It talks about homosexual rape, a 14-year-old getting raped. And to me, that should never be taught to any kid. That should never be reading material to any kid. And I would never read anything like that with a kid. To me, anybody that talks sexual in nature to a kid, unless it's in certain cases of sexual abuse, there's no reason to talk sex with kids. And so when we introduce books about rape and, no matter who got raped, that's wrong. And that's wrong for a school to introduce that. If the parent wants to do that, that's something the parent should do. And I don't agree with that. But the parent is the one that stays up at night. The parent's the one that feeds that kid, that stays up when they're sick, that labors for that kid. And it should be their ultimate decision what they teach that kid. And so I really think that schools should be about reading and writing and arithmetic. And yeah, let's teach them good stuff along the way. But when it comes to sexual and telling them that they're, not going to make it because of their color of their skin, I just don't think that that's going to help out. I don't think that's going to help our kids in the future. That's all I got to say.
So we have Jamie Evans. Melody Heidinger. Did I say that right, Melanie? All right. And then Yvonne Durant.
All right, good evening. I'm about to switch things up right now. My name's Jamie Evans. I'm a kinder teacher at Bruce. I'm here on behalf of our whole team. We need to voice our concerns about equity and safety in regards to our restrooms, play structures, and supervision. While I'm talking, I ask that you guys pretend that your kid is going to Bruce right now. We're the largest elementary school in the district. We have over 1,000 kids. The only school with a bigger population is a junior high school. Despite that, we have the highest population of students of any elementary school, along with the highest and most severe needs. We're extremely neglected. The most serious concern we have is in regards to the lack of student restrooms. We have 10 kinder and TK classes, 5 each. Of those, 2 have restrooms in their classrooms, 2 out of the 10. The others, 5 and 6-year-olds, going to the same restrooms as 12-year-olds, 11-year-olds. I don't know if you guys know what 12-year-olds are doing in the bathroom unsupervised. Not appropriate for 5-year-olds to be witnessing on a daily basis. What if it was your kid using the same restroom as a 12-year-old, seeing God only knows what in there? Also, what if your kid was too afraid to go to the restroom because there's other kids creeping on them in there, looking at them, doing weird things? They're afraid, which leads to more accidents. What if it was your kiddo coming home with wet pants because they were too afraid to go to the restroom at their own school? It's unacceptable. Also, a lot of times these restrooms are completely disgusting. There's no toilet paper. They're so dirty that one of my SPED kids, we do full inclusion, refused to use the restroom at one point because it was too dirty. On another occasion, because we do not have developmentally appropriate facilities for our little guys, one of my Downs kids fell into the toilet, had to be taken out by his aide. At another time, when he had to be fully changed, his pants became soaked in other people's urine because it was all over the ground where he was getting changed. Oh boy. Okay. Really quick. Play areas. They're tiny. All the TKers are now using our kinder playground. So kinders are going to the upper grade playground. It's too giant. I had a kid fall off the structure like first week of school, fractured his clavicle. We don't have enough supervisors out there to watch them. We're supposed to have 12 because we have over 1,000 kids. We have 5. A lot of times, several of them are absent. There's no subs. We are drowning, folks. We really need some help. I could go on and on here, as you could probably tell, but we need some help. Thank you for listening.
Good evening. I've actually never spoken at one of these, and Jamie hasn't either, and it's her birthday. So that should tell you where things are at Bruce, that she is here on her birthday. So happy birthday, Jamie. Good evening, board members, McDuffie, Dr. McDuffie, sir, parents, family, and community members. My name is Melanie Heidinger. I'm currently a full-day TK teacher who co-teaches with the amazing Lisa Johns. Together, we have 22 of the most incredible babies you'll ever meet. I, however, house a special lens as I began my journey in education 18 years ago as a crossing guard and running a PTA. I've worked in the cafeteria, been a kinder aide, classroom teacher, an intervention teacher, a thinking maps consultant, and for the last 7 years, a very, very proud assistant principal. I can speak personally to the unique dynamics that Bruce embodies. Sorry, I'm very passionate about my school. And the stress that accompanies the commitment, time, and planning our site deserves with only 2 administrators. Let me begin by calling out loud and clear as a voice for every bulldog that we have the utmost competence in our leadership. The shortages are impacting site alignment and the sense of community our leaders have worked so hard to establish. All 5 of our leaders are serving as daily cafe monitors, janitors, student supervisors, firefighters, parking lot supervisors, line supervisors, IT librarian, BIA, and classroom substitutes. They are consistently unable to provide many of the supports within their roles as they are tasked daily with the impossible. And I am telling you, as they are my friends, they are physically and mentally exhausted. Bruce staff deserve the opportunity to engage in meaningful professional learning, to grow from informal classroom observations, and to build community with their colleagues. We're asking your help and immediate support to provide our site with more student supervisors, as well as an area administrator, to allow our phenomenal coaches and admin to do their jobs. Staff and students should never have to wait for a positive opportunity to grow and thrive. Crippling our leaders and coaches is doing just that. My friends, we are in September, almost end of September already, which is crazy. We cannot thrive, all of us at Bruce, as we are not capable of doing so with the current supports in place. We are crumbling. If you knew how many times this year alone I have grabbed my heart in tears with two of my nonverbal babies going, thank God we found them, you would be disgusted. And yet that is my reality every single day. Please be and let our leadership be the difference they are capable of. They are stumbling. I know because I have felt there, I chose to return to the classroom and move this work forward from this new place because I needed mentally for my family and my health to take back a little bit so I can give everything that I've wanted to this amazing vocation. I am in for the long run until I'm 60. Sorry, I'm wrapping it up. These are not just the right people. They are the best leaders you guys will find. And it's only just that I speak as their voice, as their friend, and a friend of their families. We are asking for your support, please.
Dana Asensio as well. There we go. Okay, go ahead, Yvonne.
So just me right now, because I am reading for Tammy and Mary. Do you want me to do those later?
Say that again. You're reading.
I have a public comment, and then two of my colleagues who couldn't be there asked me to read their comments.
Go ahead and just
Go through?
you can go.
Oh, okay. Good evening. My name is Yvonne Duran. I'm a fifth grade teacher at Robert Bruce. I'm here to advocate tonight for my students, staff, and site leadership. Staff shortages are severely impacting our student safety, support, and services.
Yvonne.
We have many caring adults at our school, but
Yvonne.
yes.
Can you slow down?
Oh, yes. So I'm sorry. I feel like I'm hearing mixed messages. Slow down, speed up to finish your time. So I have
Well, slow down for the interpreters.
Okay,
And
I also,
that's
okay, great. We have many caring adults at our school, but not enough to meet the nutritional, physical, social, emotional, and behavior needs of the whole child. Having a special ed continuum at our school, admin have many IP meetings. They fill in for behavior aids. They shadow high need students. They are stretched thin and unable to respond to student discipline, provide teacher support, and meet with parents. At the June LCAP hearing, I respectfully asked that the district consider hiring 4 area administrators, 1 each for the SPED continuum schools. I was elated to see that the district did just that. However, I was dismayed to see that the recruitment didn't start until August 22nd, 12 days after school started. Why would we wait till schools across California had already hired the most highly qualified staff? I'm requesting an update on the site administrator position. Of the 12 student supervisors we need, as you heard, we have 5 for 1,000 students in 8 grade levels in a 3.5-hour lunch window. This outdated part-time staffing model is based on fewer students, grades, and needs. It creates a hectic schedule that is not best for students. It limits time to eat, build relationships, and frankly, clean up. If you saw the pictures I sent via email of our cafeteria floor covered with food waste, you will understand that the revolving door of students makes it difficult to hold students accountable, which contributes to a culture of disregard for our campus and unchecked behavior. Currently, the district is recruiting for 20 student supervisors. Per the board packet, 3 supervisors resigned this month alone. To attract and retain quality supervisors, I ask that you consider making this a full-time position. I promise you, we have places to put them to help. We also have a catastrophic shortage of substitute teachers. Our coaches and counselors must frequently cover unfilled vacancy, which means student programs, academic, and mental health services don't happen. In the November 22 MOU about unfilled vacancies, language was added that said the district is moving forward with recruiting eligible applicants to provide sites with resident subs to fill those unfilled vacancies. Past practice of employing guest teachers and curriculum subs has shown that that's a viable option. I would like an update on the district's plan to hire these resident subs. In conclusion, you see these staff shortages do not allow students or members of the school community to meet their full potential. One of our strategies that came out of strategic planning is we're going to recruit, support, and retain high-quality people because we know that schools cannot ensure every student flourishes otherwise.
That is time. Please wrap up your comment.
I'm on it. At the April board meeting, suggestions were made that HR have a strategic plan, update job descriptions, do active versus passive recruitment, and have prudent timing of jobs postings. All of these issues are relevant to the staff shortages that I commented on tonight. I would like an update on that plan. Thank you for listening.
I'm just gonna mention just on the record, and I'll talk to the board president, that the person that should be speaking, the public comment should be here, or they can also, as we had to, record their comments to be heard by themselves, or within your 3 minutes, be able to comment on those. But I just wanted to say that so that we don't have one person speaking on 5 public comments is for one person each. So just wanted to say that, but go ahead. Yes. I think your mic is off.
So it's got me. Thank you, Brian. My name is Mary Cullen, and I have been employed in this district since 2001. I have taught 4th grade at Robert Bruce for the last 15 years. Let me give you some numbers. Bruce has 1,008 students. It was built to service half that amount. Our site numbers include 6 SDC classes, 3 profound, 2 severe, and 1 mild mod class. We have 5 full-day T classes, 5 kinder classes. However, we only have 24 student toilets for 1,008 students and 6 adult bathrooms for 158 employees on our site. We have only 2 shared bathrooms large enough to accommodate a changing table for students that are diapered. We have 1 full-time custodian during the day, and his workload is a daily impossibility to complete. We need a second custodian, especially during lunches. We have 3 full RSP caseloads, 158 IEPs, 33 triennials, which often take 2 to 3 hours each. We need an admin dedicated to attending these meetings so our school admin can fulfill their myriad other daily duties. Has the district ever given thought to what some districts do, which is have a central location at the DO staffed with employees that could write IEPs and handle all that paperwork associated with RSP and SDC? This would free up RSP teachers, school psychologists, and other staff to service students directly. Our cafeteria is only large enough to serve 1 grade level at a time. This means our lunches start at 10:45 and end at 1 p.m. Students have approximately 15 minutes to eat. Our supervision aides numbers are not sufficient to supervise lunches and recess. We are slated to have 12, but we have 5, sometimes less with absences. Student safety is a huge concern with so little supervision. Can student supervisors be full-time positions? There is very little time at Robert Bruce when a group of students is not on the playground or in the cafeteria. They would never be idle. The current inclusion model has begun without sufficient support staff. We service some very high-need students that regularly elope, and need emotional regulation that requires an adult to stay with them. Sometimes several adults are required. Our BIAs and BSAs are integral in servicing these students successfully. In the last 2 years, there has not been one day where Robert Bruce was fully staffed with support personnel. These gaps in support mean that our admin, our coaches, our school psychologists, RSP teachers, counselors, and BSAs are constantly being called upon to leave their own students and duties and fill in gaps. Turnover in support staff is high. I would suggest that our district invest in BIAs and BSAs in the form of higher pay, full-time positions, benefits, and training. Make this a career that employees want to stay in. We need and rely on them for so much. This is only a fraction of our needs, but hopefully you will consider the issues I discussed here in future meetings. Thank you for your time, Mary Collin. Good evening. The first grade team at Robert Bruce would like to ask for help. Teaching is as it is not sustainable. Our plates has always been full, but now we have been given more plates with higher needs, expectations, class sizes, and behavioral issues, and far less help and guidance. We wanted to do a little skit to mirror the struggles happening daily in our classrooms, but we're all so tired. All you get is a letter from our amazing colleagues. 3 of us have 23 years experience. 1 is 9 years in, and 1 started her 3rd year this year, first in our district. We are feeling so exhausted, desperate, and inadequate. As my other colleagues have mentioned tonight, or will mention, our school has many needs. We would like to invite you to come and see these needs in person so you can truly comprehend what is happening at our school and how dangerous it is for our students. I read that recently a team toured 5 schools to get a sense of our district to work on the new district logo. If you toured our school and talked to our teachers and staff, it may resemble an episode of American Ninja Warrior. We are not athletes and we're not trained in extreme sports, but each day we feel like we are taking giant leaps from one place to another while dodging a giant rotating arm that will come out of nowhere and knock us down at any second. We are not only slipping from the rope, but drowning in the water below. We enter staff bathrooms filled with dirty diapers, feces clearly visible. We go home with bites and bruises, either from children with not enough supervision or desks that are overflowing our classrooms. We are calling the parents of students that were injured by other students, saddened and humiliated because we can't keep their child safe. We are mentally and physically exhausted. Some go home crying, and some go home and yell at their dogs. Unfortunately, it is not just us. Our instructional assistants are also going home in tears, and at least 2 are seeking other jobs or have already given notice because they are getting pulled and subbed out to other grade levels and different teachers daily. They are not able to do the job they applied for and agreed to when they signed up to be a full-time first grade BIA. The mental exhaustion has not always been as easy to see, but I think if you visited our campus, you could see it as clearly as the bruises and bites. In the last few years, we have been asked to share our why, remember our why. We have been observed according to HQIs. We have been judged by our ability to teach the programs that we know are not teaching the needs of our EL students with fidelity, while programs like SIPS, AR, IXL, and Imagine Learning have been taken away. We are the boots on the ground, yet we can't even get emails sent directly to us when we are the ones that need to know the information. We need help. We need instructional assistants. They do not need to be bilingual. We need student supervisors. We need behavioral assistants and another custodian during the day to cover the extra classes that have been added.
Please wrap up your comments.
On it. We need help keeping our students safe in our classroom and our campus. SMBSD needs to do better so we can do better. Teachers cannot keep bearing this burden. Teaching is now an extreme sport and we need some team support. Thank you.
Dina Asensio, and the final comment card, Angela Nova.
Hi, good evening, board members. My name is Dina Asensio, and I work at Taylor School. Today, I'd like to speak to you about a couple of items. My first item for discussion is the expanded learning program. And according to the California Department of Education, expanded learning means before school, after school, summer or intersession learning programs that focus on developing the academic, social, emotional, and physical needs and interests of pupils through hands-on engaging learning experiences. As you know and saw through my presentation last year, this is what I provided to some of my students at Taylor School. The program I ran clearly developed academics, social, and emotional needs. It was clearly a high interest program and a hands-on and engaging learning experience. I recently attended a funeral where I ran into a former student who just graduated from Cal Poly. She described to me how the music and theater greatly impacted her while she was in my class. Both the mother and student described how she went through a mean girl experience in elementary school and saw how music and theater was an outlet for her. She said it led to where she is today and that her senior project at Cal Poly was based on how it helps not only academics, but with mental health as well. Not only was I touched by this, but I agreed with her wholeheartedly. When I'm on campus, both students and parents have asked me, when am I going to start up again? Do I know what musical I'm going to do next? And even last time, Mr. Hollings had asked me if I was going to do it again. My response was that I am not sure yet, but I would like to. Why not, you ask? Well, theater and music are specialized topics that require a lot of work, a lot more work that I actually claimed on my expanded learning timesheet. In our contract, there's a salary schedule specifically for expanded learning. To my disappointment, I was not paid according to the schedule during my last week of the program. My rate was reduced to a lower hourly rate. Why? I was given the reason that there are two different pay rates per our labor contract and performances were paid at a different rate. This is incorrect and false. My school administrators don't understand the reasoning for this either, but this is not their control. I further learned that this is a common practice around the schools in our area. Okay, I got a couple things. So I'm gonna skip there. So I would just want to be paid for my rate. Okay, a couple other things is that there's two more topics about safety at my school, and I sent an email to Dr. McDuffie. It was brought up to another teacher, and I would like an answer. I would like a reply. I would like to actually meet somebody about the safety in our campus. There's been several situations this year and last year that it happened. Teachers not allowed to exit using certain gates, and I would like to speak to somebody who is actually in charge of that and who makes decision.
That's time. Please wrap up your comments.
Okay. Last is a topic on full inclusion. And this was adopted last year and agree everything with what the teacher spoke of last year. We were not equipped and we were not prepared for. Jumping ahead, our school starts at 7:10. A teacher worked a 10-hour workday for IEP. Behavior specialists have a huge caseload. A teacher, I'm almost done. A teacher, or not a teacher, staff member, she has been spit on, she has been kicked, she has been bitten, and today she was scratched, and she is done, and she's over it. This is not a working environment for, and one more really quick story is a
I
college.
apologize. That's time. We have to make sure we get to our other speakers. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Can you repeat your last name? I know I probably didn't get it correct.
It's Navoa.
Navoa?
Yeah. Okay. Hello, my name is Angela Navoa, and I am a student at Pioneer Valley High School. I'm here to oppose banning any book that can serve as a learning resource for myself and my peers. The books that are being talked about here today deal with topics such as communities of color, issues of race and racism, and inclusion. Pulling these books from the classroom limits the possibility of discussing complex issues. The reason I don't support the banning of any book is because all students have a First Amendment right to read and learn about the history and viewpoints of all communities, including their own identity. Inside and outside of the classroom, books are a portal to a different life experiences, and reading encourages empathy and social emotional developments.
Lastly, I want to reaffirm that as a student, I deserve the right to access any book that represent marginalized communities and speak to difficult and challenging topics that will develop my intellectual thinking and expressions. Only though exposure to these complex topics will my peers and I be able to develop into social and emotionally healthy adults. Thank you for your time.
Those are all the public comments we have.
Colleagues, I'd like to entertain a 5-minute recess prior to continuing our agenda. Are there any objections to that? Seeing none, we'll take a 5-minute recess. Thank you. All right, our meeting is now returning back to session. Item 9, approval of agenda as presented. May I have a motion to accept the agenda as presented?
I'll move to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
It has been moved by Ms. Cordero, seconded by Mr. Lara to accept the agenda as presented. Roll call.
Mr. Lara,
Aye.
Ms. Cabral,
Aye.
Mrs. Cordero,
Aye.
Mr. Valencia.
Aye. Motion passes. Item 10, consent items. Items proposed for the consent agenda are consistent with adopted policies and approved practices of the district and are deemed routine in nature. They will be acted upon by roll call vote in one motion without discussion unless a member of the board requests an item be pulled from the consent agenda for further discussion. Items pulled from the consent agenda will be voted on separately. May I have a motion to approve the consent items as presented?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented. And I'll second.
It is moved by Ms. Cordero, seconded by Ms. Cabral to approve the consent item as presented. Roll call.
Mr. Lara,
Aye.
Ms. Cabral,
Aye.
Mrs. Cordero,
Aye.
Mr. Valencia.
Aye. Motion passes. Item 11, action items. Item A, agreement with Crown Lift Trucks, Central California, to provide a forklift model RC 5725-30. Mr. Murda.
Good evening, board members.
Good evening.
Superintendent, members of cabinet, public. My name is Carlos Murta. I'm the food service coordinator for the school district, and I'm presenting the recommendation to purchase a Crown Lift for their operations on the warehouse is a lift gate for us to be able to provide just better movement on the product that we send out to the school districts, to the school sites. The specific model that we are recommending is the best for our operation based on the dimensions, the specifics, and it's able to fit into the walk-in closet, the walk-in and the storage that we have in the warehouse. We also have a unit which is about 30 years old, which has been giving us problems. So we're hoping to replace that unit with a brand new battery operated one. Do you have any questions for me?
Is this a stand-up unit or a sit-down unit?
It is a stand-up.
Okay, the stand-up ones that you go in.
Yes,
kinda
very
like the
similar.
ones they have at Costco and stuff that.
Very similar to that. Yes, the specifics that we have is it needs to be compact enough to be able to maneuver through the walk-in.
Yeah.
And we do have a second floor in the warehouse so that the forks need to raise all the way to the second floor.
Well, 30 years, got their
30 years, still a good
life out
unit.
of that one and then some. So that's about time.
Any further questions from the board? I don't have a question, but I was glad to see that this equipment is quieter and cleaner, which I assume is a greener vehicle. I believe it's an electric vehicle or electrically powered. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure, it's a battery operated. It's the best product for a vehicle that is going to be operated within the food that we provide to the kids. So it is there's a charging unit that comes to it, and the battery operated vehicle, it will probably last for about 12 hours if it's fully charged.
And I really appreciate seeing that, right? Anything we can do to promote greener products, right? Whether it's the things that we use for our food, for our students, right? Or whether it's our equipment. I think it's really important that we be thinking into the future, right? We just approved the solar panels just recently, right? And so that makes a lot of sense for us to continue to do that. And I hope that we can continue to be leaders in that area. So thank you for bringing that to us.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson.
Are there any further questions or comments from the board? If there are no further questions, may I have a motion?
I'll make the motion that the Board of Education approve the agreement with Crown Lift Truck Central California to provide a forklift model RC 5725-30 as presented.
And I'll second.
It is moved by Mr. Lara and seconded by Ms. Cordero that the Board of Education approve the agreement with Crown Lift Trucks, Central California, to provide a forklift model RC 5725-30 as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item B, request to approve a lease agreement with Tabacor LLC, a California limited liability company, to provide warehouse space for equipment. Mr. Beecher.
Thank you very much. Vice President Valencia shared this item with the school board in the weekly update. It's also, the lease is also inside the board agenda packet tonight. We're still working through the details of this lease, but wanted to provide it to you as the model that we're working from. What I have here on this slide is pictures of, on that lower right-hand corner, my right, your left, maybe your left, your left, and it's my left up there too. But that is the heater units that were installed at Robert Bruce this summer, that we expect to be installing in other campuses this coming summer. We already own that equipment. It's currently being stored in Bakersfield, and we want to bring it to Santa Maria so that we can inspect it, that we can take custody of it. We can make sure that everything that we need to operate that equipment is with that equipment. And so it's really important that we make that happen. We've been looking for quite some time for suitable property. And you can see the property that we're looking at from the inside. That's that big open space there on the lower right-hand side. You can see where it's located out towards the high school district, out towards the airport is where the building is that we're wanting to lease. And we were very pleased with the rate that we were going to be charged for this rental. We only want to do it temporarily while we have all of this equipment. We also have a bunch of surplus furniture and equipment related to transitioning our kindergarten classrooms to be either a transitional kindergarten classroom or a kindergarten classroom. There was a lot of materials that needed to get obsoleted, and we're working our way through that as well. We'll have a future board item for that. But all that has really created a huge demand for space. A lot of that furniture and equipment that came from those classrooms is right now tarped over at M&O because there's just no place indoors for it. So we're hoping the board supports this decision to lease extra space temporarily through this lease for $136,000.
That'll bring everything from Bakersfield, and would you alleviate if there's stuff here to put over there as well temporarily, or is it just to kind of get everything over here that needs to be installed at the school sites?
The first priority will be the equipment from Bakersfield. The second priority will be clearing up the space that's being taken, the open space at maintenance and operations. And then a third priority will be other items that don't move as often that are over here. A lot of what's in our buildings here moves pretty quickly. Comes in, comes out. There are some items to be obsoleted in the annex. But that will be the third priority if we continue to have space available over there.
So my second question, is there going to be a forklift over there when you're doing this?
There might be a 30-year-old forklift.
That's why I was just getting at, because that would probably be the perfect place to use that. I mean, honestly, because
absolutely,
there's no sense in going out and leasing one when if you got one and then just use what we have.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Cordero?
My only question would be about security in the building. Is it going to be alarmed, or how is that going to work if that bottom picture that shows the inside of what appears to be a warehouse, there are windows that look out, so obviously somebody could look in. I realize would be a significant task to steal HVAC equipment, but nonetheless.
I don't have an answer for that question to know for sure that it is alarmed or that we will alarm it for certain. We're going to secure the building, right? Okay. And make sure that anything that's visible doesn't appear to be valuable. Most of it, like I said, is going to be that obsolete equipment and furniture, and it's going to be stuff in boxes.
And so I don't have an answer for that question. I can certainly follow up with Javier. He's not in town this week, or he'd be sharing this item with you directly, or today and the remainder of the week, but I can get an answer the week after.
Thank you.
Mhm. Are there any further questions from the board? Some questions that I have is, for the HVAC units, do you know why our district purchased them so much in advance prior to being installed, which then necessitates, right, our need for some storage space?
Absolutely. Originally, the plan was to do this work last summer. And so we had to move quickly to purchase this equipment under a cooperative purchasing agreement so that we could secure it all from the vendor we really wanted to get it from to meet our specifications and comply with purchasing regulations, getting a good price. However, there were challenges with the utility, making sure we had the available capacity with electricity to follow through on those projects last summer. And so we were able to get Bruce up and off the ground and completed this summer. And we have Miller and Fairlawn, I think, are the next two. I'm sorry, I'm going from memory, are the next two that will kick off. And so that's the equipment we still have. So it isn't necessarily that we purchased it this far in advance, although we did purchase it in advance. It is that the project got delayed by some technicalities that were discovered as we were really preparing to bid the work.
And I think you might have already alluded to this, but what is the reason why we don't store these at any of our sites? Is it because we don't have the capacity, or things maxed out, or what's the rationale?
Excellent question. So anytime you're going to be running a condenser to cool the air, it's going to draw a lot more power than what's currently there, which is a heating unit. And the heating unit could also run off electricity, but might also be running off of natural gas. I don't have those specifics for each school site to know that for sure, but that's going to draw a lot more electricity off of the grid. And so that puts two pinch points between that unit and the power that's on the grid. One is the power panel that's at the school site, making sure that's sized appropriately. And then the other is making sure that you have the right switch gear on the ground to bring that capacity off of the grid and then transfer it over to the school site. And so it is those things that has created the delays for these units. And then in addition to that, some of these items shipped missing a piece. And we were planning on, or I should say we weren't planning. We considered whether or not to install them without this piece that really would make them fully functioning early, and then get the piece and install that piece to make them fully functioning. And the choice was not to put at risk the ability to at least heat classrooms and ventilate classrooms for this part. And so that also created delay in our ability to get that project. We've gotten those parts now. And that's another reason why we want to make sure we get them here, where we can look at them and make sure that all the pieces we need to make them work and get them installed are with the unit when it's ready for us to start construction.
And then did we reach out to Santa Maria Bonita Joint to see if they have any capacity to store some of these units or any of our other needs?
No, we did not reach out to the high school district to find out if they had space. I think they generally use all of the space they have in their building. I haven't been in it for a year or so, but I know that it's usually really well used. And we felt like it would be best for us to have it on property that we control, as opposed to having like shared custody of these really important assets on their property.
Thank you very much. If there are no further questions, may I have a motion?
I'll make the motion that the Board of Education approve an agreement with Tabacorp LLC, a California limited liability company, to provide warehouse space for equipment as presented.
And I'll second it.
It is moved by Mr. Lara and seconded by Ms. Cabral that the Board of Education approve an agreement with Tabacor LLC, a California limited liability company, to provide warehouse space for equipment as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item C, approve the district-wide facility master plan. Mr. Beecher.
Thank you very much. Again, Mr. Valencia, I'm super excited to bring this item to the school board for consideration tonight. In a lot of ways, I'm very relieved to be bringing this to the school board. This project is super important. It's very important to me and to our school district. And so to get to the point where it's ready for you to see is a relief. It's been a huge undertaking. I want to say we literally received feedback from hundreds of people in developing this plan. We had dozens. I'm
Just
sorry,
speak a
I
little
back
more.
away from the microphone
There we
all
go.
the
Thank you.
time.
Want to make sure the folks that are hearing at home can hear you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for the reminder every time. Thank you. Because I continually forget, and I may forget while I'm still talking right now. But we had hundreds of people participate in the process, providing feedback and guidance about priorities on our school sites. And I thank our parents and our teachers and classified staff for attending those community engagement meetings, for joining us for a virtual community engagement meeting. Our principals took time out of their days to walk through campuses with our designers from DLR Group so that they could give their best impression of what their campus needed. And I thank them for making that time. Our maintenance and operations leaders met with another group of professionals to help inventory and categorize and catalog all of the facilities that are out there, all of the equipment that requires maintenance and attention, to make sure that this plan includes very granular information to create estimates and help us make good decisions. And then we had focus groups. I think there were 8 focus groups with 5 or 6 different people, teachers, managers, all in the same room talking about their focus area, whether it might be homeless and foster youth, special education, core instruction. Those folks gave up their time to provide feedback to our partners at DLR Group. And then the steering committee met 5 times to really hash out that feedback, review that data, and try and shape it into the site plans and the priorities that are in this plan. And I thank those folks for their commitment, their sacrifice to make sure that this all came together. And then the team at DLR Group was amazing to work with. Karen Montevino is with us tonight, and you've met with Karen before, and you will see again tonight that she is amazing. Her team back at the DLR Group and the many places they work from, also amazing. Phil Smith, Barrow Mancinides, Kevin Fleming, Brett Hobbsa, and did I miss anybody? That's right. At the very beginning, when we were really first starting with what priorities exist for the school district. And so with all of that, I'm so excited to have Karen come up and share with you. But first, we do have a video from Edwin Weaver, one of our steering committee members. I asked him and he wanted to share with the school board his feedback and thoughts about participating on the steering committee in this process.
Good evening, President Hollingshead and board members. As you might know, my name is Edwin Weaver, and it was an honor to be invited by Deputy Superintendent Matt Beecher to participate in the district's facilities master plan process. I'm a taxpayer, a parent of a former district student, community member, and collaborated with the district in the city of Santa Maria. I've seen 3 schools built since I've moved here. Good evening, President Hollingshead and board members. As you might know, my name is Edwin Weaver, and it was an honor to be invited by Deputy Superintendent Matt Beechurch to participate in the district's facilities master plan process. I'm a taxpayer, a parent of a former district student, community member, and collaborated with the district in the city of Santa Maria. I've seen 3 schools built since I've moved here. I never knew how decisions were made when it came to facilities and was excited to learn how the district was going to make decisions in the future when it came to facilities and buildings and grounds. As someone who supports our homeless students and foster students, I went in with many concerns about their space and the different quality of schools throughout the city based solely on the locations of the parents' home. We all know living is amazing, but not all of our campuses' physical sites have the same tools and supports for our children that Living does. I was pleased to find out quickly that we would not be simply looking at adding more schools, but also about creating and equipping equity for all of our children. The hope and the goal was that every student would have access to high quality facilities to meet the strategic plan that we are implementing. I also want to commend the consultant group, the DLL group. They were very helpful. I never really thought about so many things that they brought up, to be honest. It was also very encouraging to look around the room and to see so many different people, teachers, students, parents, business men and women, community stakeholders, politicians and administrators. One of the highlights for me was reading that the students were interested in, they contributed cards and we got to read what they thought about facilities and what they needed. So many of the students talked about space. We know that we have a housing crisis in our city that unfortunately means that our children many times have no place to be quiet, to be on their own with their thoughts and to think. Thinking about space on campus was something I would not have come up with my own. We all want our students to be physically and emotionally and mentally well. The environment is more than just what the teacher brings to the classroom, but the facilities also play a huge part. And so please consider this proposition and also support it. We worked really hard on it. The facilities that we invest in are a huge component of our students' future success. Thank you.
So some words from Edwin Weaver, a participant on our steering committee, and Ms. Cordero also was a participant along with Mr. Hollinshead. So you'll also be able to share experience directly with this process. But before we move further, I want to make sure and hand it off to Karen Montevino to kind of walk through how we landed here and then also share some examples of what's inside our master plan. Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Beecher. I appreciate, oh, I am not as tall as you are. Okay. So I will try to speak into the mic and also talk slowly. Good evening, board and district and community. I just want to start off by saying thank you. On behalf of the DLR group, it has been an honor to partner with the district, with your staff, with your community and students in this process. We are wholeheartedly committed to doing whatever we can to help create the best learning environments possible for your students, not just because they are structures and we're architects and we like to build, but really we understand the impact, the positive impact space has on student achievement and well-being. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to walk us through our process. So I will try to be as succinct as possible, but I get excited about this and sometimes talk a little longer. What I'd like to do this evening is talk to you. I'm going to go through kind of at a very high level the process we have gone through to get to this point this evening. We will talk about the drivers and objectives that were developed in this process. Also, we'll talk about the master plan overview kind of from a very high level. We have some statistics to give about that. Want to go into the design strategy. So what does that look like? And then we'd like to hit on the website that we've developed that basically curates this information and the work that we've done and is your living facilities master plan document that is transparent to the entire community. So I'll start off with this chart, and you should have it in your packet as well. But basically what I just want to highlight is this has been a year-long process that we've been engaged with. And the second line starts to talk about community involvement. And as you can see, that has covered almost all of the time that we've spent on our work. We've looked at the facilities, the existing conditions. We've done educational specifications, some of the focus groups that Mr. Beecher mentioned. And then the yellow section is really where we start to create the plan. So it's after we have all of this information and in working with the community. So a long process. Just hitting a few highlights. The very first part was we have analyzed a lot of documentation. We've looked at the as-built drawings of your schools. We've studied the demographic report, looking at capacity and enrollment projections. We have people on our staff that's all they do is look at grant funding analysis and are looking for how to maximize the ask to get you the most amount of money for your projects. We looked at space inventory, which really just means we looked at not just the physical condition of your building, but how are you using your spaces? And we looked at the master schedules as well that helped us understand and look for opportunities for efficiency if we could find them. So some of the numbers, we did walk all 21 sites. We looked at the district admin, warehouse, and maintenance facility. You have about over 1.2 million in square feet that we assessed and our team, and over 203 acres. So I want to take a moment to just highlight the fact that, as I've said, really we believe that instruction, the learning experience for students should drive all decision making. And that's what is most important. So we did the 21 site walks with principals to hear their perspective, stop to talk to some students along the way, and also our own observations. We did have 2 educational summits with educational services team, as well as numerous other meetings. And we did have, actually, it was 10 focus groups with at least probably 10 to 12 educators in each one, and they were based on content. So we got to talk to teachers from all over the district to help create our educational specifications, which gives us a roadmap for any future improvements, small or large. Just kind of illustrating the point, one of the things that we're just really talking about is your teachers are doing amazing work and your students are incredible. But what we know is that being able to look for opportunities like the band room or music room on the left, how many kids you're able to put in that is amazing. And then looking for opportunities and planning for how can we give them more space for the programs that you offer. Community has been our partner throughout the entire process. We did have 4 community listening sessions. 3 were in person, and we did it by feeder districts, and then 1 was virtual, and we were able to do these in 3 different languages and had over 200 participants show up for these. We had over 500 people give comments or responses in the digital survey of what the community saw as the priorities for facilities, and you will see those as well, and those are curated on the website. Okay, I have to confess, one of our favorite parts for Phil and I was the student engagement. So we were able to have an hour-long session with 6th and 8th grade students, 23 of them from across the district, and that was very eye-opening. We did a number of activities with them, and each one tells us a little something different. I was really surprised we asked we showed them different ways you learn, different activities. 44%, no surprise, said it's through creativity. The only one that didn't get any votes for that category was performance, which is testing. Not a surprise there. But it was very interesting that some learn by reflecting, some learn by discussion and brainstorming and research. And so that tells us what kind of spaces do we need for those activities. And then the steering committees. And this was also, they worked as hard, but they were a lot of fun too. And I have to say that the 5 steering committees that we had with this lovely cross-section of community members, parents, and staff, teachers, district staff, really helped shape this plan. We go into this without an agenda or an end solution, and we facilitate a process, and the community all works together, and each time, each workshop builds on the other to build consensus and kind of hone in on what the plan is. I did just want to put in this particular drawing from one of the students, and I was speaking to one of your district admin people who was also looking at this. And I didn't even say what it was. I said, there was one drawing that we had asked a student to say, what's your favorite place in the school? I said, there was one in particular that stood out to me. And she said, yep, I know which one you're talking about. It was this one. Your favorite place in the school, and this student said, it's the bathroom. And she even took the time to point out the things that were broken. But she said she just needed the quiet place and to take a break. That speaks volumes to us on challenges that students are facing and what we want to make sure we incorporate within space. So from all of this engagement, from all of this research, we really landed on, as a group, about 5 what I would call drivers for the facilities master plan. Providing equitable access to education across all backgrounds. Partnering with the community to promote student education. Creating spaces that support quality education. Designing safe environments that foster healthy student interactions. Relationships are so important to student success. Do they have an opportunity to build a relationship with an educator or an adult in that school that knows them by name and can champion them? And building connections to the environment is very important. Some of our objectives that rose to the surface, we wanted to make sure we were in alignment and supporting the strategic plan. And I'm happy to say actually that there are several component pieces that really overlap nicely about supporting the whole child, providing excellent spaces, staff retention. Space has an effect in staff retention and supporting all of our adults within our building. Goes without saying, one of the biggest drivers was how are we going to house all of our TK students that are coming, and making space by 2025 for all of them, which is substantial. So that was a huge driver, and making sure that we had enough for all day kinder and all day transitional kinder. One of the things that rose to the surface was the possibility of moving 6th grade to junior highs to create middle schools throughout the district. I want to emphasize that this didn't come from how do we create more space, so let's move the 6th grade out. But this really comes from the fact that educationally, what rose to the surface is this is what's best for students. And currently, the 6th grade teachers are teaching from a middle school curriculum. So that also makes this jump a lot easier, makes it a smoother transition. And for those that are a little bit concerned about their 6th graders being with 8th graders, there are architecturally some ways to create community amongst the 6th grade as you kind of gradually introduce them. But That was felt educationally as well as it had some space benefits. Provide needed educational program and support spaces. So I believe the district is going to have the ability to staff VAPA educators within the next few years. And so, where are those spaces that they can teach those programs to students? Improving safety and security of building sites and campuses, campus access. This is physical safety as well as emotional safety that we looked at. Right sizing enrollments and providing permanent facilities. And we'll talk a little bit more about that right sizing enrollments and how important that is. And I think it really kind of struck with the conversations at Bruce and 1,000 students. That is a challenge. And I know that the district has worked hard to accommodate their students. You've had so much growth. It's very challenging. Promote inclusion of all students through supportive continuum schools. Okay. So the plan, high level. This is where we landed, is reconfiguring the elementary schools to transitional kinder through 5th grade is our recommendation, and reconfiguring the junior highs to 6th through 8th grade middle schools. Construct new DLI, dual language immersion campus, with a new 750 student elementary school and a new 900 student 6th through 8th grade middle school to take some of that pressure off of many of the other campuses that have so many students on them. Once that campus is completed, the recommendation is to convert Jimenez to from a K-8 to a TK-5. It was also daylighted that from educational services and others that truly a K-8 model doesn't serve students in the best way possible, in the team's opinion, and really feeling like going to a holistic elementary and middle school model was the best. So when you move all of those 6th graders up to the middle school, you've increased the burden on the middle schools. And so we also discussed that truly you need to, you can convert Taylor Elementary to a middle school. So you would have 6 middle schools at some point. And then adding spaces to Jimenez to become a continuum school to continue to support inclusion within neighborhoods and areas. Okay. And this just kind of gives a graphic of where the continuum schools are, family resource, and where the middle schools are. And so this also gives a little bit more distribution with some of the middle schools, with a new middle school a little bit farther to the south. So kind of by the numbers, what does this look like? So looking at current reality of the number of total enrollment that you have versus permanent capacity. And this is calculated by the square footage that you have of built space. So this does not include your relocatables. So that's where you'll start to see a bit of a difference. It's not that a student doesn't have a classroom to be in, but that likely you have that many students in portables numerically. So as you can see, the push is really kind of at the elementary right now. So when we start to look at 2025, 2026, and looking at UTK and looking at the numbers, we're getting closer to 17,500 students plus. And that really pushes those numbers at the elementaries, as I'm sure you're aware. So you're getting close to, 4,500 students that are what we would call unhoused. If the middle school conversion takes place, you are able to move some of that pinch on the elementary schools. And then as you can see, it just kind of moves it up to the middle school. So that's why the middle school needs to be addressed as well. So we also ran in 2028, 2029, because we started off with a 5-year window of what does that look like for the enrollment and then permanent capacity. And so we were looking at when you build a new elementary, or if you so choose to build a new elementary and a new middle school, kind of then how does that affect those numbers? So you see that The elementary school is still unhoused. And then what that means is, as you will see in the plan, we're really looking at long-term, what should each campus look like? Because I think as someone alluded to when they were talking about Bruce, some of the schools were designed for 425 students, 450 or whatever, and have 850. So this is where we're kind of talking about where you would still, once you build these two new schools, you still have unhoused students, students in portables. And so the long-term plan of really building out permanent space at each of your sites. And this is where we talked about building out each site permanently to 750 students at the elementary level and 900 at the middle school. Full implementation, basically at these numbers, you've covered your middle school students and you still have 690 students unhoused. Basically, potentially down the road, you could easily do another elementary school. But if you distribute that among 17 elementary schools, the impact is a lot smaller than what you currently have. So a lot of numbers, but some people, it's good to see the data. This I'm not going into. This is in case you ask me some specific questions I need to reference really quick. But it does give a snapshot if you want this information that goes into a lot of detail. And we have a lot more. Okay, any questions so far? Everyone awake? Okay, good. So really, what does this look like design-wise? You know, what does this look like space-wise? So we've talked about kind of our high-level objectives. So I want to let you know I'll show you in just a second the facilities master plan for, I won't show you every site. We'll look at a couple, but we have those as test fits drawn out and that we've been able to create budgets for. But this just really kind of talks about what that looks like. So one of our first strategies was how do we maximize existing facilities? And so you will see oftentimes rather than just saying, oh, well, we're just going to tear these schools down and we're going to build one new big school in its place. We really looked at the longevity of each of the schools. And also this has a great sustainability emphasis as well, making sure that we are maximizing and using the facilities that we have and not increasing by a lot of demolition, increasing landfill amounts. Also, we looked at, when you look at the sites, you can see we tried to centralize any kind of new construction to preserve as much field space as possible. I will also just tell you right now, because you will see renovation or modernization, bathrooms, which we heard a lot about, are included in those numbers. So they're not specifically itemized, but in those dollars, we looked at increasing bathrooms and renovating bathrooms across the district. Again, we looked at reducing the students in portables, and I've talked a little bit about those numbers. So you'll also see when you see the master plans, we really looked at how do we create TK and kinder centers. So we had some specific strategies as we were looking at improvements of each side of keeping those students together, keeping them around their own play area, keeping them close to admin for support, but keeping them sheltered and safe. And then also looking at what could potentially a TK drop-off and kinder drop-off look like and making that distance short for students to get into their classes. So there's a number of design strategies there, and we also budgeted those or designed those to the 1,350 square feet is where you should be with bathrooms in each one. So as we were diving into this work and working with the committee, we really looked at, well, what would it be if we replaced all the portables? Well, we could do that, and the numbers were large, and we as a committee looked at that. But we also looked at what's the way we can impact the most students at each site and their needs. And so you'll see we talked about this strategy about what if we built new multi-purpose spaces to house the number of students that would now be at that site, the 750, and possibly even team that with the VAPA programs. So we looked at, for VAPA, we looked at an art space, we looked at music space, and then we looked at, well, if in that multi-purpose space, we could have a stage where we could do both drama and theater and multi-use that space. So again, trying to look at the most efficiency of space and shading to the outside nearby. So you will see that in the plan. We also looked at outdoor spaces. How do we connect students to the outdoors? How do we make that easier for a class to go out and utilize outdoor spaces? So not only using outdoor spaces saves us a little bit on square footage, but it really connects students to their environment. One of the things we heard a lot too is about circulation, vehicular circulation, pedestrian circulation on the site, drop-offs. So you will see that we tried to address that as much as possible in the master plan. We also looked at wherever a recommended multi-purpose was located, that it could serve both as a queuing area and a drop-off area. So queuing area in the afternoon for pickup, drop-off, and also community use in after hours. Okay. Questions so far? I'm going to switch over now to the master plan, the live website. Brian and I practiced this, but I'm still a little slow. If I may just turn this so I can drive at the same time. So this is the website we've created, and it is, once it's approved, we can publish this out to the entire community, and it has the summary data that we've been talking about. And so it is a transparent process. I'm going to need my glasses. Okay, so it starts off with the video of Dr. McDuffie explaining the need and importance of master planning. And you'll see here that if you just want to get to the good stuff, you can read the summary of data, or you can just go directly to finding your own school. Okay. So it's pretty streamlined. We talk about the educational master plan that's very inspirational about the type of spaces we could create. It gives a list of all the participants in committees and the groups that participated. There's more information about community engagement, and then here's where you can go to the summary of the plan. I will show you anything you want, but I don't know how long you want to explore this. So I think you'll just find that everything that we've talked about at a high level, like community engagement, you can come down and find more data. So for instance, of those 513 responses on the survey, you can start to see what the comments were from everyone. They had categories that they could rank of what they felt like was most important.
What does that 3.2 represent, or the 2.5?
The ranking out of 5, the number 5. So you start to get a weight of how important, because people could only pick a certain number of ones to vote for. Again, you can see some of the work from some of the students on the student engagement, all of the presentations from the steering committee, and their work is under the steering committee topic and the community meetings, and there's photographs of everything. And then if you click on the Santa Maria logo, it will take you back to the beginning. So I'm going to just take a moment to look at the summary information. So you can see, you can look at the community priorities, you can look at the facilities cost, all of the repairs, and this is the physical needs assessment. This is the analysis that our team did about funding. And so what funds the district might be eligible for from the state. All of this information is a snapshot of the district as a whole. Master plan costs. So you have the ability to filter by school, to filter by category, or to filter by type of improvement. And category is just simply renovation, new construction, modernization, et cetera. You have the ability to start to kind of think about, well, how soon would it take us to get started with this work? So you can pick the year because there's an inflation factor built in. We can start to talk about escalation and make some decisions, and you can start to see the impact of escalation in time, and then also contingency. I want to go back up to the top though, because I think there's one here in particular. So what this does is you click on those buttons and it just takes you like a bookmark down there. So we spent some time also looking at the statistics in regards to equity. What are the percentages at each of the schools that English is a second language, socioeconomic disadvantagement? We looked at housing insecure or homelessness and foster youth. So you start to get a bit of a picture and get some good data on the makeup between the different schools. Geeking out on numbers here, but then you can also get into, the actual numbers and percentages of that student population. So what this allows you to do is, as we start to look at priorities and the order of improvements, this is a great tool to help you really understand which students could benefit the most from being moved to the top. You'll also find information about capacity and enrollment, and there is the ability to see about that difference of if we included sixth grade at the middle school. So all of that data is here, and the steering committee also went through this information as well. I will say it takes a little playing with it to fully grasp it. So I'm going very fast.
A question that I have so far real quick is who would be the point person? Like if a parent says, hey, I want to help navigate the website, who would be that point person for our district? Do we know who that might be?
I am not sure on our side who that might be right now, but I would imagine our technical whiz and all purpose man on base is Brian Rickey. So he would probably be the one to be able to fill those questions and get those answers.
Did you just find out about that, Mr. Rickey?
Also, we're happy to be a resource to answer questions in any way we can as well. Okay. I'm going to jump back to the beginning. What I'd like to do is just show what does this look like school by school. So there's the summary information that has all of the data in these different categories, but then there's also the ability to look at a particular school. So I'm just going to ask you, do you have a particular elementary school that you would like to see? Just briefly, that we can demonstrate that information. Tunnel? Okay. Certainly. So here you can click on the map and you can see all of the different schools, but you can also go down here. And click this way. Two maps at the top, or two things to highlight at the top. The map is just an aerial view of what it currently looks like. And the dashboard gives you this information across the top. So what you have is you can look at, there's some basic information at first, but say for instance, the enrollment for 2022 at Tunnel was the official, I think we use the October 1 enrollments were 804. And enrollment capacity, I will tell you this, that when you look on the summary page, the enrollment capacity does include portables. So if you go over here to enrollment and capacity, it starts to break it down more. And so you see that 804, but what you see is actually the enrollment capacity is 425. If you want to see what it looks like with the portables, you can toggle that and it shows you the portables or the relocatables impact. Okay. Demographics, again, looking at that information about different groups. And here's where you start to get some specific numbers and percentages. Modernization eligibility. So we start to look at dollar amounts. Facility conditions. So actually, there's also a link here to actually access the physical needs assessment report that Bureau Veritas did with us. If you really want to get into the nitty gritty. Replacement cost by building. So this just breaks down, and I'm not even going down. So you can go down for more data. But really, let's get to the fun stuff. Let's get to the master plan. Okay. So here's Tunnel, and okay, it was set to the second story, but this is for the first story. Okay. So just to give you some highlights here of some of the strategies I was talking about, you will see that orange is modernization. So what I just want to say is we looked at any buildings that were more than 20 years old and just kind of saying every building has to be refreshed at some point, and every building has to be renovated at some other point. So just know that this is the long-term plan. This doesn't have a timeline on it, but we wanted to say this is what your campus could look like completely built out and refurbished. And I also will say, when you start to look at these numbers, please keep in mind that we do this in such a way as we think about our own personal finances and we look at what will we do about our house, and my cars are all over 200,000 miles and I'm going to need to buy a new car, and the kids' college and everything that we would do and all the things we'd fix it up. That's what we've given you is the numbers. And when you see in these reports, it gives you the whole picture. The next step is the prioritization. So don't be too scared from some of the numbers. It's everything. But that's the way you can make best decisions. So here in the site plan, you'll see the twos. This is the kinder center. So grouping all of the kinder classes together. And actually, that's the library space here. And what we looked at was building a new classroom space, two-story building. We have entry here. So there's parking here. There's also parking on this side. We've extended this down. And then for this particular site, we looked at, this is a new addition and this is a new addition. So it's kind of in that reddish color. And this is where we looked at adding multi-purpose space and kitchen to every elementary school that basically didn't have them. Again, like I said, this is compensating for schools that were designed for 450, 500 kids. I will say this, that of all of the schools, when you go into the data, we calculated bringing all of the elementary schools up to 750, except for 3. And that's Fairlawn and Bonita and Arianes. Elementary. So Ariana's draws from a particular community, and there's no sense in trying to put in more kids from long distances just to build that. And it's on a constricted site. Bonita also is on a constricted site. I believe it's 5 acres. And we felt like that given its location and also the smallness of the site, that these Ariana's, whatever the kids that you draw from, that's the size of the school. Bonita, I think we were looking at about 500, and Fair Lawn is also 6 acres. It's a small site. And so we looked at capping that at about 500. There's no sense in really kind of densifying more than it can probably handle. Okay. Any questions here about what you're seeing on the site? But as you can see, we looked at multi-purpose and trying to conjoin that with VAPA programs. And again, feeling like that was going to be one of the ways we could impact positively the most students in their learning experience. So that was one of the strategies there. Okay. And then if you'd like, I can go to a junior high. Yes, okay. We'll go to El Camino. Okay. Sorry, I'm even doing this right-handed and I'm a lefty. So I'm a little slow on this. You'll find it to be a lot easier. Okay. So we come down here and we can look at El Camino. Takes just a second to load. Okay, we're going to jump straight to the master plan. Okay. Where possible, you will see we tried to provide a walking track or some kind of track on the site, especially also at the elementary schools. We give that. So here, one of the things that's really missing at the middle school level are locker rooms and weight rooms, and insufficient sized NPR also at El Camino as well. So blue is renovation, the orange is modernization, and the red is new construction. So looking at the site here, we looked at the old NPR and looking at could we create CTE programs in that space and use that large volume. You will see in many of the plans that says 10, but we, with the building layout that was built, the 2-story buildings on a lot of the campuses, there is a sliver of space in between some of the classrooms. And we felt like that with a slight tweak of that, you could build a more collaborative space at one end that starts to bring those 3 classes together so they're not so isolated, and you can still put a specialist at the other end, because that's one of the things that is desperately needed is specialist office spaces to meet with small groups and students. And so we looked for ways we could create those wherever possible. So here we looked at creating that NPR and also expanding the existing gym to have the locker rooms and weights, and also renovating a space for student support services. Again, another way of meeting the needs of the students. So you'll see that. Oh, don't tell the science teacher who I met. He loves his space in that building. And we also thought very carefully about sight lines. So we, in laying things out, just trying to make sure that the site is still very supervisable. We also coordinated this work with Javier and Matt on solar panel locations, and making sure that all the playground equipment that's being installed too, that we are in sync with that as well. The one thing I didn't show you for each one of these master plans is this last button, which is called the scenario builder. So you can do this in summary, but you can also do this for each site. So if you hover over each color, each space, you can see what that work is and what the probable cost is. But those numbers you can adjust again for each particular building or project. You can look at the year it's constructed, the escalation, and look at the contingency. So there's a number of ways to tweak this, but this does, if you decide that we're only going to do one type of building construction, you can look at that. It's just more information to play with. So with that, that's probably the long version of the work that we've done. But again, I just open for questions, but I also just want to take a moment to say thank you to Mr. Beecher and his team and all of the wonderful people we worked with, the district educators, the students, the community. There's so many voices and a lot more information that's gone into creating this plan. And we are very excited about this. We think this could be as efficient and supportive of a plan that we could create for your students. So with that, questions, comments, thoughts?
I just want to say thank you for taking the time out when we all met and to go over all these school site plans and taking our input as well and giving us the feedback from everybody, the stakeholders that were involved. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lara.
Likewise, thank you for putting it also detailed and accessible and readable, and we can understand it. Yeah, no, and everything. I mean, I went to the meeting in August, and it was great to see all the changes, the much needed renovations to the schools to accommodate our growing our overpopulated schools. So thank you, and hopefully we can get there.
Thank you.
Since we're looking directly at El Camino, I would just like to point out that one of the significant changes in the modernization of this site, if you look at the new building that is on the west side of the campus, I can point to it on my map here. It says 6 and 8 on it. It's the new multi-purpose room and cafeteria. The existing one is actually where it shows the blue toward El Camino and it has the 5s in
Yes.
there. And the conversation that took place about placing an NPR in this location, and then also to allow access to that after school by creating actually a new driveway that would travel along the very west edge of the school to be able to park in that area. It was such an interesting conversation about how to make that happen, because the existing parking is on the east edge where she's waving her finger. And that it's a pretty good trek.
I will say that there is an access point here, and that's also part of the fire loop. So that is access point, but we did look for ways to extend the parking here for the gymnasium too.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But it just created, because of the configuration of the site as it is now, such an interesting conversation to be able to do that. So a lot of thought, a lot of intense conversation within each of the groups, a lot of questions. The data at times was significantly overwhelming. And, when we got to the bottom line costs to do every single thing, and we were into the billions, we all just kind of went, but to get to where we believe we need to be, this is And it doesn't mean that it can't change.
Correct.
This is really just, under the conditions that we know right now that exist, these are things that already we know that we want to be able to do. And it'll be a process. And, it would be wonderful to think that by the end of 2028, this would all be completed. But the reality is probably it'll still be in process.
Yes, it is a long-term
Right.
vision.
And I mean, 2028 now maybe sounds, 5 years out to me doesn't sound like that long. And knowing how long it takes to get projects done, it really is infinitesimal, but this was not just haphazardly done. I can attest to that, and for the guidance and the questions that were posed that really generated a lot of the responses. Because if you just sit in front of an audience and say, so what do you think we need to do? It's like, But getting to being able to identify more specifically, what each site would need was a process. So thank you for the guidance in that. I personally think we have an excellent end product and certainly an admirable vision for what our district can be.
Thank you.
I just want to highlight a couple of things that I heard that I think are really critical. You mentioned the sustainability piece, being mindful of not increasing, for example, our landfills, right? So I think that's a really, really important piece to pay attention to, right? Is how are we not just like saving money, and also how are we, saving the planet? Because those two go hand in hand oftentimes if we think, if we're forward thinking. So I really appreciated that component that I hadn't necessarily thought about in terms of like how it adds to landfill, depending on whether we reuse the space or not, or destroy and then completely rebuild. I also really appreciated hearing the importance of how space has an impact on staff and retention. I think you'd mentioned a science teacher that loved their space, right? And I imagine there's some colleagues that do not, love their space as they currently stand. And so, and I imagine that has a major impact on our students as well. So I thank you for highlighting that. I really appreciated how thorough it was in seeking the student, parent, teacher feedback and all the folks involved, because for most of us, unless we work at the site or drop off our children at the site or we go to school there, we don't really know, right, what it's really like to be there and what the needs are. So it sounds like we did a very thorough job of doing that. And I think that that's going to make this, this master plan an effective one, because there's no way I can tell, right, what's happening on the day-to-day to all the sites. And I really, that piece, that drawing with a quiet place to take a break, I think that was really powerful. Just giving our young people an opportunity to go somewhere quiet. Sadly, it's a bathroom stall because of the lack of space, it sounds like, right? But I want to continue to highlight that as we continue with this work. How are we creating places where our young people can think, where our staff can take a break? So critical. And the intentionality of also how do we get them outdoors as well, because we know that also can have healthy outcomes as our young people being in nature, getting some sun when possible. So I'm also really excited to see what this continues to progress as. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Mr. McDuffie, Dr. McDuffie.
Thank you. And I just want to give my thanks for you and your awesome team and how you partnered with our community. You and your team were respectful and really listened to all of the feedback that you received, and you really made it interactive for our community, students, parents, and our staff. And so I really appreciate that. And the plan is just very comprehensive. It gives us a blueprint of what we need, what our needs are, and how we can move forward with this school district and making it what we want it to be. And so I just want to thank you for that.
And before we move on to a motion, I also want to thank Dr. McDuffie and our staff, all staff that were involved with this. I imagine there was too many to actually, call out by name at this time. But do you all know when the last time we did a master facility plan like this?
I have no idea. I have to
So we've
look
never done
to Mr. Beecher.
I'll say that we've never done a master plan like this, but we have done a master planning process across the district. It was like 2007, 2008.
Okay.
But as comprehensive, and as accessible, and as
Transparent.
again, make it
Mhm.
interactive. It doesn't exist in many places. So we're very fortunate to have a library.
So, so I had a feeling it had been, definitely over a decade, maybe even close to two, right? Since we've done something like this as a district. Hence, even on top of all the other obligations that our staff have to be willing to engage in this work, I think is also really important to
Yeah, and I
say thank you.
yeah, absolutely. And I just want to thank again Matt Beecher for heading this up and getting the people involved, getting the steering committee together, and really spearheading our staff in moving forward with this work.
If there are no further questions, may I have a motion?
I'll move that the Board of Education approve the district-wide facility master plan as presented. And I'll second.
It is moved by Ms. Cordero and seconded by Ms. Cabral that the Board of Education approve the district-wide facility master plan as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item 12, discussion items. There are no discussion items, correct, Dr. McDuffie? Item 13, new business. Are there any agenda items or a new business from the board? All right, seeing none. Item 14, board and superintendent reports. Mr. Lara.
Yes, I'd like to report out on a gentleman that used to work here and he's passed, Mr. Roberto Torres Limon. He was a beloved husband, a father, a grandfather, and a great-grandfather during his 84 years of life. Roberto retired from 37 years of service for the Santa Maria Bonita School District. Excuse me. He started at Miller School in 1963 as a night custodian, then transferred to Elvin as the day custodian in 1965 and continued there until his retirement in 2000. His dedication was unwavering. He opened up and prepared the school early every morning, welcoming staff, teachers, parents, and students, and making lifelong connections with everyone on campus. He is survived by his wife, Ruth, who also retired from our district. He is survived by his wife, Ruth, who also retired from our district. 4 children, 2 of them whom are currently working for our district. Robert Limon Jr. is vice president at Adam, and Teresa Sanchez at JPO. He also has 10 grandchildren and 3 of them working for our district as well. Linda Limon Stanford at Miller, Samantha Reyes at Oakley School, and Maria Sanchez at Fessler. I'd just like to give him our condolences, to go out to the Limon family, and may he rest in peace. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Lara. Ms. Cabral?
What a beautiful legacy. I have nothing to report.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cabral. Ms. Cordero?
I'll just piggyback on what Mr. Lara commented on. The Limon family they have long been a part of our school district. And while he had been in failing health, it is a loss to our community, but the family is deeply embedded. And as Mr. Laura indicated, a number of family members continue to be employed by our district, and I know that will travel through multiple generations. So he was extremely admired and loved by both parents and students, as well as staff members. He went above and beyond and was known across the district for his ability to interact with any person that came on that campus. So it is a huge loss. So other than that, I'm looking forward to the community celebration at the Fair Park this weekend and a couple of other things that are coming up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cordero. I would like to also commend our staff for, we receive weekly updates from the superintendent regarding happenings in the district or things that we should be aware of. One of the things that was brought to our awareness was that some of our school sites are bringing PCPA to, I believe, our school sites. I think I saw a play called Dulce, if I'm not mistaken. So I want to give some props to our staff for connecting the arts to our campuses so that, I'm not sure if they're coming to us or we're going to them, but either way, we know that the arts are are highly beneficial to our students. So thank you for doing that. I also want to recognize Bonita's sponsorship in the Hispanic Heritage Month celebration, which I believe is taking place September 30 from 12 to 4 at Fair Park. Is that correct, Dr. McDuffie, as far as you know?
Correct. I have 1 to 4, but it may be 12 to 1 to 4.
Okay, so yeah,
Yes.
so 1 to 4 p.m. at Fair Park happening this Saturday in collaboration with Santa Maria Joint Union High School District. The more I think we can collaborate, right, with the high school district, right, I think is excellent. And then also I want to encourage all of our staff to attend this wonderful event, to connect with our students and our families outside of school. I think it's wonderful when those connections take place at school, but there's a different kind of environment, right? When we connect with our families and students outside of school. So I want to encourage all of our staff to attend that are able to. I also want to give props to Tunnel Elementary. They're going to be having a Hispanic Heritage Celebration September 20th from, I believe, 5 to 7 p.m., where there's going to be culture, games, crafts, music, dance, food, etc. And these events affirm our belief that the cultures of our students matter. Honoring their roots goes hand in hand with encouraging their educational advancement. And I doubt it's only Tunnel, right? I think there's other schools that are doing this, but for those that are not, I definitely encourage you to do so because, again, these are opportunities that bring our families together. I also really want to thank our educational services. They sent us some of the resources that they send for teachers, and I was really impressed with the variety of resources that they are making available to our teaching staff. For example, they included Hispanic Heritage Month video links to people like Rigoberta Menchú, who won the Nobel Peace Prize, Guatemalan civil rights activist, who's actually come to Santa Maria as a speaker, who's essentially a living legend. I saw Frida Kahlo, the artist Selena, artists like Carol G, who probably many of our students might be able to connect with as contemporary artists. I also saw that they had ways to find Latino book titles. So if an educator is trying to incorporate text or Latino authors, they made it really easy for our staff to be able to find that. I saw poetry links to Central American poetry because we know in our community, right, our Latino community is diverse. And so it was nice to see that. I saw coloring activities of famous Latinos. I saw articles about Latinas in STEM. So encouraging, right, our young people to be involved, right, in science and technology, engineering, mathematics. I saw activities educating our young people about Latino athletes. And sometimes I forget just how amazing like our Latino athletes have been in shaping our country, such as baseball players like Roberto Clemente, who I believe is of Puerto Rican descent, right? These were players that left a legacy decades later. People are still talking about them. So there's something for everyone in all subject areas. So I definitely encourage all of our teaching staff to take advantage of those cheat sheets that are made available to them. Because I know as an educator myself, sometimes it's overwhelming with our grading and all our planning. So when somebody gives you something that's kind of like, hey, here's a quick 3-minute video link, here's a short lesson, it makes a world of a difference. So thank you to our educational services for providing that. I also know that this is a tough time of year. This is about week 8, I think, in the school year. And I can tell that many of our students or staff are feeling tired, exhausted, overwhelmed, stressed, just to name a few of the many things that they might be going through. So in fact, yesterday, one of our Bonita graduates who's in my classroom, she said, "Hey, Mr. Valencia, I'm so exhausted that I don't even know if I'm going to be applying to 4-year colleges," which blew me away, right? That our students are feeling so overwhelmed that they don't even feel like they have the capacity, the energy to take on such an important task in their life. So I intentionally took that feedback and did a day with my students today, where it was like a mental health day, essentially, where I did some coloring, which you wouldn't think it, but at the high school level, they still love to color because they're not used to doing that. And the creativity of it, they told me when I asked them, I was like, "Hey, I thought you all were too cool for school and you wouldn't want to color." But they said, "No, actually, it allows us to like relax and de-stress." So even though I'm not much of a coloring person myself, I'm glad that I made that available to them. I brought a Jenga so that they could play with Jengas. Some of them brought loteria cards, so we played loteria together. So it was an opportunity just to remind my students, hey, like if you work hard, we also get to play hard. And I know as an educator, I really benefited from that time to build relationships with my students. I asked them to give me their check-in number. So from 1 to 10, how are you feeling? How are you doing? And asked them to briefly explain why. And those are the things that we often don't have, quote unquote, time to do in the classroom because we're so busy trying to get to the next standard. But I think it's really essential that we balance academics with joy. And our young people and our staff deserve to have both. So I want to just encourage all of our staff to think about that, to take care of themselves and our students. But we know that when we fill our cup, we know we're helping them fill their cup as well. I also wanted to invite all of our staff to the Undocu Summit, which is taking place on October 7th from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. at Laguna Middle School in San Luis Obispo. I encourage all of our staff to attend to learn about how to better support our undocumented students and their families. This event is sponsored by folks connected with Cal Poly, Allen Hancock College, San Luis Coastal Unified School District, Cuesta College, etc. I know personally how difficult it can be to deal with the challenges of being undocumented. I have friends and family who were or are undocumented, like my mother and my father. My friend Joel at UC Berkeley was a dreamer, and he shared his story about not being able to receive state and federal aid at the time, and he was ready to sleep in the park because he knew that he might not be able to afford housing at that time. He's now a lawyer who advocates for civil rights and for communities that can't afford lawyers. It is imperative that we as a staff are equipped with the latest research, legislation, and tools to help our undocumented students reach their full potential. So Dr. McDuffie, I ask that you please send this information out to our staff so those that are able to attend are welcome to. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Vice President Valencia. Saturday, as you've heard, 1 to 4 is a celebration of culture and community event organized by the Family Engagement Department. The celebration, which honors Hispanic Heritage Month. The celebration, which honors Hispanic Heritage Month, is happening at the Fair Park and open to our family, staff, and community. Also, I'd like to recognize Mike Grogan, the district's retired student housing technician who recently received the 2023 Robert F. Grogan Public Service Award from the city of Santa Maria. I attended that event a couple days ago. I don't exactly know when, but it was just recent. The award, which is named after Mike's father, honored Mike for his work with the district to acquire land, help build new schools and classrooms, and plan for enrollment growth in the 22 years he's worked for SMBSD. Congratulations to Mike. We're grateful for the work he did on behalf of our students and our community as well. I've also been visiting schools and have enjoyed my interactions with students and staff. I'd like to thank El Camino science teacher Ali Valema as I visited her class while they were creating wind-powered sail vehicles. The students were engaged in learning about the two types of energy. Anybody know what those are? Okay, kinetic is one. I forget the other. Can anybody call it out real quick? We're an intimate group here. No? Okay. Homework for everyone. Potential. Thank you. Google, right? Let me move on. Additionally, Ms. Vilema shared with me that she's implemented a program called Class Award Day to recognize excellence, character, and other admirable qualities in her students. Class Award Day was held last Friday, and she said it was extremely successful. Parents and family members attended the celebration, to celebrate the achievements, growth, dedication, and hard work of her students. So Ms. Vilema is just one example of our incredible teachers who make an extra effort to develop positive support relationships with our students. Yesterday, I spoke to the YMCA Board of Directors at its invitation for me to speak. I shared with them the process that this district is going through our strategic plan, just adopting now our facilities master plan. And I spoke also with them about us preparing for enrollment growth in transitional kindergarten and our expansion to full day. That work includes assessing our community's support for a school construction bond for the next election. And so we'll continue to talk about that. And I appreciated their invite and thank them for their attention. They're also continuing to be outstanding partners with our after-school programs as we collaborate, as we talk about, they talked yesterday about the continuing to look for activities that are engaging our students in the after-school program as well. Moving right along, Cabinet and some of our district office managers have met twice with staff from CEL. The company we're working with to develop a new logo, branding, and promise statement for SMBSD. CEL stands for Creative, Effective, and Lasting Brands. And the representatives brainstormed with our staff, asking questions about what we value in our district, how we see ourselves, how the community sees us, and what's our best qualities that should be highlighted. The representatives also toured 5 of our schools to get to a feel for our district, talk to staff, visit classrooms, and understand what we prioritize. The second meeting we just had, we looked at some of the draft messages and provided feedback, and we will soon be having another meeting for those, and we will have some options for staff, students, families, and our community to provide feedback before we select our new logo. And so for that, finally, first to also give my condolences to the Lamone family, the loss of their father. And I wanted to address our school community. And this is not something that I just wrote up today when we had public comment. I've had these typed, but I wanted to address our school community, about the staffing shortage we've been experiencing this year. It's been a tremendous strain on all of us. As I've visited principals and sites, as I've worked with human resources, ed services, and business, it has been very stressful. This is of the utmost importance for us because I've witnessed that impact with my visit, Miss Lo Chung Vu, as we visited Ontiveros, and the theme of needing staff. And we are looking at ways we can shore up this gap we have in recruitment. I know that this impact leaves a sense of hopelessness at times. And, you know, I'm starting to hear a lot of the district is making this decision, or the sites are doing X, Y, and Z, and it leads to a sense of hopelessness at times that things won't get better, and that people feel out of control. Now, I believe that they will. As one of our belief states, we believe a unified community inspires hope and faith. That's one of our beliefs. This means that we have to remain unified in our efforts. We, as in teachers, classified staff, site administrators, district administrators, the board, our parents, our students, the entire community. We are not where we aspire to be. But I will tell you that we will never get there without each other. That's all I have.
Thank you very much, Dr. McDuffie. The next regular board meeting for the Santa Maria Bonita School District will be held on October 11th, 2023. There being no further business before the board, may I have a motion to adjourn? It is moved by Ms. Cordero, seconded by Mr. Lara to adjourn the meeting. The time is now 9 p.m. Meeting adjourned.